Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the July 31st, 2023 meeting of CCL's joint meeting between our Youth Action Team and Electrification Action Team. I'm Pete Marsh, one of the co-hosts, and along with Sharon Bagatelle. And today we're going to talk about the Youth Action Team's Great School Electrification Challenge, which is a way to make our schools healthier, better performing, more comfortable, lower carbon emissions, and better learning environments. So we have a number of folks joining, and I'm expecting 30 or more people, so we'll hold off for a few minutes. But in the meantime, it's great to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining. All right, people are rolling in. So instead of, with a group this size, instead of going around and giving verbal introductions, although I would love to do that, if everybody could please just drop into the chat box your name and either your town or even better, your school district, where you're from, and maybe even drop in an email address if you would like to get any updates afterwards. We'll be posting the recording and the slide decks and whatever other resources we come up with during the call. And I will go ahead and get that started. Okay, misspelled my name, but I got an email address right. There we are. Okay, so again, great to see everybody. We have 35 of us on the call now. So we'll go ahead and get started. Once again, for those who just joined, I'm Pete Marsh. I'm the co-lead of the Electrification Action Team. I see Jay Bassett here, one of our other co-leads. I think Julia Moravchik will also be here. And but our co-host for today's meeting is the Youth Action Team, and that's Sharon Bagatelle and Vinay Kartik. Sharon, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Thanks so much for inviting us as the National Youth Action Team to co-host this tonight. And thank you all for being here. I see a lot of familiar faces, which is really exciting, and some folks that I don't know. And I really hope that this is the beginning of a partnership between these two action teams, because we have a lot of overlapping interests. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the National Youth Action Team, I am the Youth Action Coordinator, and I work with the National Youth Action Team as a space for under 18 youth in CCL to engage in our work and empower themselves in climate action. So last fall, when CCL came up with its new agenda policies, we took a look at what the Youth Action Team could really dig its teeth into. And school electrification really seemed to be something that we could get really excited about and feel like we were making a real difference. And so we worked with Rewiring America and came up with some creative ideas about how we could actually implement this, make this happen on the ground, the kind of vision that Joel, who I see here tonight, spelled out. And so we're working closely together. And so is it time to head on to introduce Vinay, Pete?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
great. So it's my pleasure to introduce one of our stellar members of the National Youth Action Team, Vinay Karthik. He is a rising junior in Edison, New Jersey. And he serves as the leader of the Communications and Technology Working Team. And he is our National Youth Action Team website webmaster. And he is also very engaged at the local level in climate action in New Jersey and beyond in CCL. And then beyond CCL, he is a representative to Youngo, which is she's and the global coordination team at the United Nations Youth Constituency for Climate Change. So with that, I will hand it over to Vinay.
Hi everyone. Thanks Sharon for that great introduction. Today, let's get started. So let me just share my screen. Yeah. Okay. Can everyone see my slideshow?
I sure can. Thank you, Vinay. Also, I heard some background noise, so everybody, as a reminder, please mute yourselves unless you're talking. Go ahead, Vinay.
Thank you. All right. So hi everyone. Once again, my name is Vinay Karthik, and today I'll be talking a little bit about the National Youth Action Team's Great School Electrification Challenge. So what exactly is the challenge all about? So basically, this challenge provides the opportunities for students to advocate for the passage of an Electrify Everything resolution by the school district's Board of Education. And this is a way of pushing schools towards electrifying all of their appliances and facilities. This includes like cooling systems, heating systems, cooking appliances, school buses, and much more. And throughout this challenge, teams that participate, they can earn points by taking actions that support school electrification and lead to the passage of their school electrification resolution. So there's some goals of the challenge that we want to accomplish. So basically our main goal is to, of course, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Schools are one of the largest public consumers of energy, and our initial goal is to get at least 15 school boards to commit to school electrification by the end of April 2024. And by reducing greenhouse gases, we also hope to create a healthier and safer school environment for students, especially with those with health conditions such as asthma. And we also hope that by electrifying schools, we can also help improve the energy resiliencies of schools as well. So now we're going to get a little bit into how the challenge works and how students can get involved in our challenge. So the National Youth Action Team has basically compiled this challenge guide. You can find this on our school electrification webpage on our website. And this basically outlines the details of our challenge as well as a flexible timeline that teams can follow in order to achieve their school electrification campaign. So we have in our challenge guide, we have outlined a series of like 10 steps that teams can follow in order to have a successful campaign in school electrification. And this timeline is kind of flexible. The first 3 steps, as you can see on the slide, those are kind of like should be followed in that order, but the rest of the steps are mostly flexible. You can follow them in any order or as many times as you want. But this is just a way for teams to follow in the campaign. So kind of the first step is to review the Rewiring America campaign guide and handbook. And Rewiring America provides lots of great information on the background information for school electrification, as well as how to organize your campaign and implement school electrification. So there's lots of great information in the handbook and the guide as well. And the next step in the challenge is to form a team of students. So so in the team of students, there's usually 3 or more students are needed to form a team. And usually the students should be from like different schools within the same school district, and as well as one adult supervisor is needed as well to form a team as well. And afterwards, the next step, once you form the team and once you reviewed all the information in the Rewiring America campaign guide and handbook, so the next step would be to research your school board and find out what their climate priorities are and what they have done in the past. And this will kind of help you with tailoring your campaign and making sure it will also help with drafting your resolution and effectively presenting that to your school board. So the next step after that is to develop your campaign messaging. And pretty much this will help bring support for your resolution from both the public as well as the school board as well. And we provide tips on campaign messaging in our challenge guide, and which you can find on our website. And the next step after that is to draft the resolution. So drafting a resolution can seem like a daunting task at first, especially for students who are just getting started, but you will receive like lots of support from the National Youth Action Team all the way throughout the process. And we even provide a resolution template, which you can use to draft a resolution. So you have lots of help and support from the Youth Action Team. See, yeah. So once you have done drafting and finalizing the resolution, then you then can present your resolution to the school board. And this is kind of the big moment that all the teams have been waiting for. And on the side, there's also like developing your relationship with your school board, as well as building public support for your resolution. And these are great ways to show that your resolution matters and that it will have a higher chance of getting passed as well. So, and of course, you'll be facing, just like anything that you do important in life, you'll be facing many obstacles in the way. So as step 9 says, it is important to be patient, to be consistent, and be persistent as you go through this process as well. And 10, of course, have fun with the challenge. It's designed to be fun, and of course, celebrate your successes along the way, especially when you overcome those obstacles as well. So on the next slide, as you can see, is the challenge point system that we use for the Great School Electrification Challenge. And pretty much you can earn points based on how big or small the action is. And some examples are developing campaign messaging and graphics, attending board meetings, conducting a tabling event, or hosting a movie night that promotes school electrification. So there's lots of creative ways to take action for school electrification. And though the challenge does include points for the different actions, it's not really meant to be competitive, but it's more of a way just to encourage students to take climate action into their own hands and follow the necessary steps in their campaign to successfully pass the resolution. So that's kind of the main point of the challenge point system. And of course, as I talked about before, teams that will be participating in the challenge will receive lots of support and from the National Youth Action Team along the way. And we provide initial team trainings as well, followed by periodic check-in meetings to just to check up on and catch up on the progress of the team's campaigns and provide help as needed. And we also have additional school electrification resources, which are found as part of our challenge guide, as well as on our website as well. And we also provide national publicity as well about team campaigns on social media channels and our youth blog as well. So if you're interested in participating in the Great School Electrification Challenge and starting a school electrification campaign, you can find the registration form on our website. It's on the school electrification webpage, which is under the Take Action tab on our website, and it's also on the link as well here. Please do register if you are interested in starting a campaign. And yeah, thank you for listening. And if you have any questions after this meeting, you can feel free to reach out to me either at the email or phone number listed here. So yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Vinay. Really appreciate that overview. It's a great program. What I'd like to do for the audience is let's go ahead and ask one or two questions now, but then we'll save the majority of questions for the end of the hour, because coming up next we have Ruthie Heiss from Long Beach, California Unified School District. We have Charles Hu from Madison, Wisconsin, who he helped get a climate resolution in Madison, one of the early school districts around the country. Then he went off to Harvard, and now he's at Rewiring America. So underachiever, but we're delighted to have Charles on. And let's see, I'm forgetting somebody else too. I'm sorry, Ojas Sankey from Arizona's Youth Climate Coalition. So anyway, let's take two questions now, and then we'll get into Ruthie's presentation. And Vinay, if you wouldn't mind canceling your screen share, you'll see.
Sorry. Yeah.
We'll see all our smiling faces again. All right. So use the raise hand function, or just wave your hand around if your camera is on. Jeannie.
Hello, everybody. I was wondering how someone, a youth, could find out. I mean, I guess there's two things. One is policy that's passed, and the second is implementation, of the policy. And if you have any tips along the way of how to find out not only what resolutions have been already passed, but also what has happened, because we've learned that policy doesn't always immediately translate into action.
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, definitely you can look at like prior school board meeting notes as well, to help just find out about like past climate actions. Yeah, so that can kind of help with this, finding out about some of those resolutions that have been passed. Sharon, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it is, as Renee said, looking up, just the documentation of what has happened in the past. But we found that just like with the rest of CCL, building relationships, asking questions, finding out, who's responsible for what in a school system. So learning to navigate that whole system is something that we encourage student teams to do. And then as far as the other end of it is the implementation is, that's a long drawn out process. And so what we're asking students to do is to get the ball rolling, to get the schools simply to commit to doing this. It doesn't ensure, of course, that it's going to happen, but it gets us farther down the road. I was not a big fan of students spending their times on really broad resolutions. But this is a very, very specific to electrification, which is pretty measurable. And it would involve having the school district to get a professional team of auditors and to figure all that out. So it's not going to happen overnight. And so we try to be pretty upfront with students about that they could be long graduated from high school and even, well, who knows if they would have children in the system by then, but hopefully it would happen sooner than that. But, you know, just for them to realize it's a long game. Hope that helped.
Yeah, great, thank you. Bill Nash, and then we'll move on. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, hi, I'm not familiar with the program in specifics, but I'm sure you have economic benefits of electrification, payback terms, as well as money saved in the long run, and just basic information where you know, some more of the conservative folks will go, wow, we're gonna save a lot of money. Is that in the package?
We do have lots of information on the economic benefits of that, and you can also find lots of that in the Rewiring America Challenge Guide, as well as like and information in that. They have lots of information in that, and that can be very useful to use when in your campaign messaging or when talking to the school board. So that's definitely a great resource that we have been using as part of the Great School Electrification Challenge. So you can definitely look there. They have lots of great information on kind of the economic benefits of that. Yeah.
And I wanted to add that I put in the chat a summary of our resource document. We have actually an ongoing, like a running resource document as we collect things. But this is just kind of a little snapshot that I put in the chat. And so it has some information on funding available through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, as well as the IRA, and not related to funding or economics, but just wanted to say that on that document, you'll see a video of our lead team, the Tahoe Youth Action Team, as they presented their resolution to the school board. And so I highly recommend watching that. It's 11 minutes, and it just is like quintessential CCL in action. Pulling in all the information, the respect, the grass tops, all of it. It's a really good demonstration.
Awesome, thanks, Sharon. Matthew, I see your hand is up, so go ahead, and then we'll jump to Ruthie's presentation.
All right, so I was actually curious some ways that me and my team can help prove to the school board that, you know, people in my local community care about our electrification campaign, like, you know, do like polls and surveys work, or, you know, like local newspapers. Just what are some ways that I can, you know, help prove to the school board that, you know, people in my community are supportive and care about electrifying the school district?
That's
Go
really
ahead.
great. That's a really great question. Definitely having a kind of a sort of way, like, you know, like while you're holding tabling events or like any like outreach events to the public, kind of like having a sort of way of kind of like taking note of like having like a survey where like people kind of fill out like how much they care about school electrification, as well as like a poll or something like that, and they can kind of use that as you present to the school board your resolution about like, oh, this many people really care about school electrification. So that's definitely a great way to just this should show that the public support this as well, and it needs to be passed. So yeah.
Right,
Sharon,
thank
do
you.
you have, yeah,
Great.
Sharon, do you have anything to add, or
Yeah, thank you very much, Vinay. That was great. Matthew and others, also keep your ears peeled when you listen to Ruthie and Charles. I think each of them have some lessons learned about that community engagement piece as well. So fantastic. Ruthie, are you ready to go?
Sure. Would you like me to share my screen?
You can share, or I can flip slides for you, your choice.
Okay, I think I got it set up where I can share. So let me do that real quick.
Okay, very good.
All right, can you see me?
Yep. Actually, we see that you've started screen sharing, but we don't see the slides yet.
Of course. Let me wait for it to load.
Okay, got slides.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Beautiful. Hi, everyone. My name is Rithi Heiss. I'm a youth climate organizer. I'm 16, and I'm from the Long Beach Green Schools campaign, which is from Long Beach in Southern California. And I'm going to be talking about how we passed our board policy 3510.1. So what is board policy 3510.1? The Green Schools Energy and Sustainability Policy was passed on August 17th, almost directly a year ago, after 2 years of collaboration from my initiative with our school district, Long Beach Unified School District. And it's an updated version of a previous policy that was called Green Schools Policy, but it really didn't have any teeth or any specifics to it about how they were going to make sustainable change. So we took that policy and we updated it to focus on decarbonization and renewable energy. Specifically, it outlines plans for reducing emissions, wastewater, and energy consumption, decarbonizing all facilities upgrades, phasing out and updating vehicles and machinery, updating HVAC systems, planning a transition off of fossil fuels and onto renewable energy. And since it has no deadlines beside a state deadline, we included a climate crisis and sustainability task force, which will keep the district accountable for making these changes. Pete made an awesome slide, which is the highlights of BP 3510.1, and I had to include it. I really like surrounding green building standards, zero emissions machinery. All modernization projects that LBSD is going through right now have to be in compliance with these green building standards, which is something we've never seen from LBSD before. It also includes information about phasing out existing fossil fuels infrastructure and machinery through the IWA existing recapitalization cycle, schedule, and budget. And it also focuses on reducing vehicle emissions gradually throughout time, but eventually to get to zero emissions. And specifically outlines for schools to make plans for school campuses to include ways to encourage alternative forms of transportation. So this is essentially a timeline of our progress. We started out in August of 2020 as a simple school club at a high school in Long Beach. We were spearheaded from the Climate Reality Project, and LUSD had previously passed a policy the year before, not a policy resolution, and we decided we were going to do the same thing. So from August of 2020 to early 2021, we spent our time building ourselves as a district-wide, a community-wide initiative. We got about I think we eventually expanded to 6 different schools across LBSD who each had student-run clubs at each school. And then they would feed into a core team of entirely a student-run core team. And we began meeting with different district officials. We began presenting to board members. And we had our student-led town hall, which was basically us introducing our initiative to community. And throughout that time period up until the summer in late 2021, we began meeting with facilities and virtually every person in the district that we could find, every community expert that could help us out. And we realized that this was not a priority for the district, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we held our Long Beach Youth Climate Rally, which definitely helped us get some replies to those emails we've been sending. And we, through late 2021 up until early 2020, students returned to schools on campus, and we began meeting with facilities team and other district representatives consistently. And we were made very, very aware that this was still not a priority for the district. We faced a lot of dismissal and opposition, but at the same time, we started working and we basically met with them twice a week. This became a very serious discussion, and we presented at the board workshop in March of 2022. And we began to pivot and focus on discussing the board policy 3510 and updating it. Even if we were able to put our exact words into this policy, rewrite it ourselves, there were some things that the facilities team and the policy team did not want to include, which were anything that revolved around a date. They were quite scared of that. So despite our concerns, they pushed to pass this on, I believe in July of 2020. And the board actually heard our concerns and refused our policy, forcing the facilities team to include our insight. So in August 17th, 2020, we finally passed board policy 3510.1. Some of the challenges, we definitely faced a lot of challenges, and we built up basically every strategy that was shared earlier. We just figured out on our own. biggest thing is, again, we started in the middle of the pandemic. We faced a lot of dismissal. We also, LBUSD has a very interesting political climate, specific regulations around who board members are allowed to meet with and how they're allowed to meet with them. So it took a lot of community organizing, hosting events ourselves, attending events, tabling at events. We took a lot of meeting with different community members, networking to every person, every group, every district had done this in the past. And through that, we talked in every one of those events, we had our press connections that we sent out press to. And we had a petition that got, I believe, now close to 2,000 signatures on it, which is pretty cool. In addition to that, opposition was definitely something based in their lack of education and awareness over how this was possible and the fact that this was achievable. And over time, their non-urgency was very clear. So something we did is we maintained constant presence at school board meetings. We attended every school board meeting they offered for like a year and a half, where we brought in students, teachers, parents, and different experts to specifically speak on certain themes that why this is urgent, why this is affecting a million people across the globe, but also Long Beach specifically. We also organized and we used our political connections to reach people, their big bosses above them, and every other senator and representative that would hold any weight. And we also met with our teachers and teacher and custodial unions who were able to give us some insight on navigating the political climate. And we also made ourselves a resource by our networking. We got basically every expert who from districts who are going through the same process that we wanted to mimic. We brought them in, and because of the amount of different energy companies, solar experts, community organizers, and district representatives, we were able to connect them with, we were able to serve as a resource for the district, which gave us some leverage. And of course, we had, throughout time, we got very burnt out and exhausted. So we had a great team of stable mentors from large organizations who were able to provide us direct input in our daily meetings or our weekly meetings. They were daily at some point, but usually weekly meetings. So one of the most important lessons we learned was working with the district versus not against them. Because in the original, up until I would say fall 2021, we viewed the district as our enemy, and they did vice versa, because of the amount of opposition that we were giving towards each other. We had to realize that, hey, the district knows what they're doing, and we're students, and we have to learn from them. And any progress, even if it's just meeting deadlines, state deadlines, that is still progress. So we realized, although our original goal was transitioning LBUSD off fossil fuels and onto 100% renewable energy in the electricity sector by 2030 and in all other energy sectors by 2035, that was just too radical to be accepted. Our original proposition of passing this via resolution, like LUSD had done, would hold no teeth in the political climate of LBUSD. So we pivoted, and the district offered to join the facilities master plan. Essentially, within the 2 years that we were meeting with the district, they were going through a modernization plan for all of their schools, all 84 of them. And they gave us an opportunity to come serve and include this policy that we were going to write in that facilities master plan. We were worried that this is going to take away our power and leverage, and this was really not going to hold any. This is not going to be as effective as a policy. But after further discussion, we gave in. And it ended up being really great, because after we were given that opportunity, we connected with a lot more people, specifically a policy team who helped us write board policy 3510.1. Some specific language strategies we included within that policy included qualifiers, because we time and time again advocated for specific deadlines, but the facilities team and policy team were constantly concerned about this policy being accepted and passed by the board. So they were too scared to include any deadline that they were not going to be able to meet, and therefore refused to touch deadlines at all. Instead, we included qualifiers, which are basically when or if the capacity and resources allow, we will do this. This definitely helped include a lot more ambitious language that they were going to write in with deadlines, but with qualifiers, and we had a task force to back it up. So some current outcomes that have come about this, because we're part of that facilities master plan, We were able to be involved in several other programs that the district is currently running. The Vision 2035 strategic planning program is completely separate from our policy altogether. However, it is basically the same thing that we did with the district. Since our student organization was basically the first time they had ever interacted with and brought stakeholders onto a platform like they did that they were forced to kind of by us. They took that, realized, hey, that kind of worked. And that's really effective. So they took that and ran with it. We were able to be part of a program that outlined very ambitious sustainability goals, some things that we would never assume would be coming from the mouths of LBC representatives. It included behavior change programs, sustainability plans, green schools plan, not in reference to our policy, but in reference to greening our space and removing our blacktop, multi-year capital investment strategy, and a path to climate literacy. All of these things are going to occur within the next 15 years, and they included deadlines. And they have multiple different coalitions, different committees, and different teacher trainings that are outlined to keep this in check. And so that was something that was a direct result of our policy in a way, and mostly just our organizing and our initiative that occurred in the summer of 2023. Also, since last fall, moving into the summer and up until September, our campaign basically joined a bunch of other successful and continuing campaigns across the district, not the district, but the entire US to form national GSEC. Like I said before, we are spearheaded from Climate Reality Project, and through Climate Reality Project, we're basically relaunching ourselves as a nonprofit to be a national network to students, to support student campaigns across the US to do the exact same thing we did. We're working really hard on that this summer, and we're supposed to relaunch September 2nd. And this fall, the Climate Crisis and Sustainability Task Force is planned and scheduled to meet and begin working out implementing our board policy. So yeah, that is basically the outline of our achievements as our achievements as Long Beach Green Schools campaign. I'm trying to figure out how to put this in the chat because I realize that you probably can't click on that from here. So let me stop sharing, and I'm going to copy and paste this into the chat.
Perfect. Thanks, Ruthie. And I put in the Poly GSC URL already into the chat, but yeah, drop a few of your others, and we'll have lots of other resources. And yeah, I see one person applauding. I'm down for that. Applause here, and thank you very much. That was great. Let's take one or two questions now, and then Charles and Ojas, I want to give each of you all a couple of minutes, but we're down to barely over 20 minutes left now. So if you all could make yours brief, please. Any questions for Ruthie about Long Beach? Jim.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. I would kind of like to go back to the beginning and ask some questions about how the students found other students in other schools in the district, and how they found their mentor, and kind of who was the mentor that kind of helped them with building the movement that was so creative.
There you go, I found my mic. Yeah, so essentially we're an entirely student-run organization. We included mentors who met with us occasionally, adult mentors who met with us occasionally, but we did all of our networking and all of our reaching out to other people by ourselves. Essentially what we did is a lot of us we reached out to establish green teams within the district. Other high schools, we mainly focused on high schools. We only had, I believe, about 3 middle schools under our belts. But we essentially just sent emails to teachers and to students and reached out on Instagram, which is an incredibly useful platform now. And we invited them to meetings, we presented to them, and then once we got them on board, we helped them set up a club at their own school. Essentially, that is kind of what, yeah, that, and also students did kind of flock to us once we started showing up places, because we spent a lot of time showing up just everywhere across Long Beach we could with our green shirts. Hope that answers the question.
Great. And Jay Bassett, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I was really excited by what you're doing in some of the policy pieces, but one of the things I've been working on as part of the Gwinnett CCL chapter is to actually build that network of green teams across the whole school district and connect them with environmental educators that are interested in supporting them. So that's another piece we're trying to get organized. So maybe it makes it easier than just trying to work with individual classrooms or just try to find it through happenstance, to actually have a network that you can tap into. It's something that I'm interested in and been working on. So I don't know if you see value in that or not, but if there is, there's a platform we're developing, and some of it was with San Francisco Unified that we're hoping to push out over the next 6 months.
Beautiful. Yeah. I remember meeting with and working with San Francisco. They helped us along in our early stages. I've noticed a lot of people, especially on the Zoom call, but a lot of other groups across the US are creating networks, national networks like this. So reach out to me and I'll be interested in collaborating.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. And now next up is Ojas Sanghi, who is he's a student leader at the Arizona Youth Climate Coalition, and I just got introduced to him by Jane Conlon, who's a CCL group leader and chapter leader, and connected us. So, just tell us a little bit about what you've got going on in Arizona.
Hey everyone. So my name is Ojas. I'm the Tucson co-lead for the Arizona Youth Climate Coalition. So AZYCC is a youth-led collaborative group that fights for climate justice across the state of Arizona. We have chapters in all major cities in the state. Here in Tucson, well, we're not a part of CCL officially, but we work very closely with the CCL chapter here in Tucson, as well as up in Phoenix. And so as of late, we have begun a school electrification campaign, working with Tucson Unified School District, which is the biggest school district here in Tucson. They have a bit under 90 schools and over 40,000 students, 50,000 students. So we work very closely with the city here in Tucson. The city of Tucson was making their climate action plan last year during 2022, and we were an official community partner during that process. We worked with the mayor's team and with other council members. So we have already good connections in the city leadership. So we requested that one of the city council members connect us with school board members that he knew, and he connected us with 3 out of the 5, which is an amazing first step. And 4 out of the 5 school board members we already kind of pegged as they would probably support this kind of an electrification campaign. So we've met so far with 2 out of 5 of them. The third one we got connected with is out of vacation, and we're still working on setting up meetings with the other 2. But the 2 that we've met so far with, they were very much in support of what we were doing. Tucson itself is a city that's very climate conscious and takes strong action on climate. So we're glad to see that went through to the school district leadership as well. One of the school board members we met with was the president of the school board, and we were talking to him about let's pass an electrification resolution that saves a lot of money when it comes to energy costs, improves learning outcomes, improves health outcomes, addresses the climate crisis. And he was like, "You're preaching to the choir. I love this idea. Let's do even more. Let's make it even bigger. Let's make it an all-encompassing climate action resolution that not only takes into account emissions and building electrification, but also takes into account landscaping, also takes into account water, the carbon footprint of food, all these different stuff. And let's make it really big, and then let's get it passed before we have school board elections next year in November 2024. So we were stoked to hear that, and that was really, really awesome. And now we're working kind of alongside them. We're like partners in this process now. We're working on a really all-encompassing resolution, and we're hoping to get that passed either at the end of this year or early spring next year. TUSD is just approved a bond package that's going to the voters this November. If that bond package gets approved, then they get $480 million over the next 10 years to invest into all of their schools and invest in retrofits for systems such as HVAC and all these stuff that we want to electrify. So this really came at an amazing time. They might be getting lots of money to fund this, and we have an amazing school board in place who are ready to support this effort. So that's where we're at right now. We have a really exciting progress, and I see some potential in this.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. And I took a few notes. I just met Ojas earlier today, and that's what the slide is on the screen. So thanks, Ojas. How about now Charles Hua, who is with Rewiring America and came out of the Madison, Wisconsin School District. Charles, do you want me? I think you have some slides in this same deck, correct?
Yeah, that's right. If you can advance, that'd be great.
There we go.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for the opportunity to speak a little bit. I just want to say I'm blown away. I'm very impressed. I did a double take for a second when I realized that Vinay, Ruthie, and Ojas weren't also college graduates reflecting on their past work, but rather were current high school students. And I think that is deeply impressive. So you guys are awesome. The other thing I would say is that as a high schooler, I would have loved to go to something like this. And I think that in some sense speaks to how far the movement has gone, that there's convenings and networks of dedicated individuals like all of you who are here today, passionate about getting climate action done at your local community. So that's awesome. I'll share a little bit about the journey that we went through in Madison, Wisconsin. This started about 5 years ago when I was a sophomore in high school. The picture there was when I was leading our school's Green Club at the time. And this was back in 2015. So, at that time, climate change was something that a lot of folks were concerned about, but it was still before there was all this momentum from different communities that were looking to pass clean energy resolutions or things of that sort. But when we were leading our school's Green Club, we were wondering what are some projects that we could take on that would be impactful. And a lot of the things that we had seen were a lot of efforts focused on composting or recycling, which we felt like were important, but not nearly the big slice of the pie. And so we pitched a solar project to the school district, and they came back to us with a bunch of reasons why we couldn't do it. So they said that the roof needed to be replaced. They said that they didn't have the money. And then the third thing that they said was they didn't feel like there was community support. And this is Madison, Wisconsin, what we call the Berkeley of the Midwest, one of the most progressive cities in the country. And there's a lot of community support, but they didn't seem to really realize that. So we said, let's just go raise the money ourselves. So we got the green light to do that. We started this Adopt a Solar Panel campaign where folks could, through a $500 donation or the cost of an individual panel, adopt and name one of the solar panels. And we did all these campaigns with students, parents, alums. We even had classrooms competing against each other to get solar panels named and adopted. We dug into all these alumni yearbooks and these Facebook groups and tried to get all these listservs of alumni who could donate. And in the end, we ended up raising $150,000 to get solar panels installed. And so there was a lot of community support behind that effort. And we wanted to figure out, okay, great, we did this for our school. How can we scale this to the next level? If you go to the next slide, what we felt like we needed to do was get our entire school district on board. So this is just a picture showing that the panels were finally installed and in operation. Beautiful array. If you go to the next slide. So we wanted to figure out how we could take this to the next level. And so there was a lot of community support, and we had started to engage beyond even just our school district. We tried to get our utility on board, kept on sort of sharing the story, including on the Sierra Club podcast and other different venues. If you go to the next slide. So we ended up getting them to pass 100% renewable energy resolution, which includes kind of electrification and building decarbonization. But that took sort of about a year of engaging with a couple school board members that we had relationships with. We collected about 2,500 signatures from the community. We We were able to collect at least one signature from every school in the school district. We have about 50 schools in our school district, including elementary, middle, and high. And that was a kind of a cool thing that we were able to say to them, is that we had representation district-wide. We had sort of a point person leading each of the high schools within our school district. So we have 4 high schools. So we had designated a point person for each of those. And then they kind of oversaw all of the efforts across the elementary, middle, and high school level for their chunk of the district. And we were able to get them to pass this resolution in early 2019 when Madison became the largest school district in the country at that time with that goal. And if you go to the next slide. So we kept on speaking up at different school board meetings. We tried to find allies within the school board. We engaged with op-eds. We got a lot of community members to speak up during school board meetings, and we were able to get that resolution passed. If you go to the next slide. So then one thing that was interesting was, okay, we did that with the school district. What came next? So the good thing is that a lot of surrounding school districts wanted to figure out how they could replicate what we did. And so we helped out the nearby Middleton, Wisconsin school district to adopt 100% resolution. It turns out that our local utility ended up moving, they instead of becoming enemies, which they were in the early stages of the process, became allies in helping our school district actually further its commitment to building new renewable energy facilities. And the school board incorporated a couple $1 million of sustainability investments as part of its facilities referendum. So this effort got the ball rolling, where the school district, which initially was very resistant to the idea of renewable energy and something that seemed like it would be expensive, not feasible, difficult, they ended up taking measures that we didn't even need to be involved in anymore, because they were able to roll the ball down the hill, or the snowball became big enough, whatever metaphor you want to use, where we didn't even need to push them and hold their hands as they were doing that. If you go to the next slide, please. So this is now just to close things out a little bit, sharing a little bit about my personal journey. So I first got interested in this issue actually in 2nd grade, when my teacher at the time explained, he told us about Al Gore and Inconvenient Truth and climate change. And by the end of the year, we had this kind of classroom assignment where we had to write a newspaper article, and I wrote mine about solar. And to me, this story, what its significance is that part of why school districts are such a prime target for climate action, and why the work that you all are doing is so incredibly important, is because it has the chance to plant seeds like this in young students who you never know what kind of impact that it's going to have and what's going to stick with them. And potentially over time, as they grow into the future leaders and current leaders of our planet, things will stick with them in ways where, like, for example, for me, I was building not only a passion around climate action, but also a lot of the soft skills, understanding how different stakeholders function, understanding how to negotiate and persuade other people who may be opposing a project to align with a project, understanding how to speak publicly, understanding all these different things is something that exactly all of the efforts that you're doing is empowering. And if you want to go to the last slide, second to last, actually. So this is just, I ended up going to college, being able to study climate and sustainability, help develop our university's sustainability plan. And now I'm at Rewiring America, doing a lot of electrification policy work. So it's a space that I've continued to try to stay engaged in. Now, if you want to go to the last slide. So I put together just a couple learnings, maybe if you want to go through them one by one, Pete. So starting with the first, strategy is everything, right? This is something that you all know. But what I mean by that is really do the power mapping, understand who the key stakeholders are. In our case, we found out that it was the chief financial officer and the facilities manager. I suspect that that's the case for a lot of school districts. Figure out what they responded to. In the case of our CFO, they responded to money, budget. So we kept on making this argument that energy savings are critical because energy bills are the 2nd largest school expense for school districts behind teacher salaries. So we kept on making that argument. For the facilities manager, who didn't really care about that, he cared about making sure that his work was as easy as possible and that we wouldn't be imposing a lot of additional work for him as we were pushing for more clean energy. And so that gets to the next point. Is empathize with the school districts. Understand where they're coming from and what's on their plate. So what we realized is that our school district was overwhelmed. This was a time when there was a lot of sort of issues around policing and youth violence and equity as related to our school district. So this is what consumed almost all of the school boards and school districts' attention. So we were sensitive to that to make sure that we didn't impose requests that seemed unreasonable, particularly when they were cash strapped following a decade of underinvestment from our Governor Scott Walker, who restricted the budget so that they were as minimal as they could be, and the schools were frankly overwhelmed. So what we did, and this is the next point, was do as much of the legwork as possible and demonstrate that you're serious. So there's a question earlier, how do you actually convince them that there's community support? And what I would say to that is petitions are great. They're a good first step to say, here are all the people that support this, and the more people across the school district that you can point to, the better. But even more than that, even more than the school board members being told that there's community support, they should feel it. And how do you make them feel it? That's by getting as many people talking to them, engaging with them, both informally in one-on-one settings, and also in these larger school board meetings, and make sure that they feel that there's community support. Because as logical as we would like to think every school district and decision maker is, that's just not the case. Sometimes they don't respond to logic. And how do you overcome that? Oftentimes it's the emotional piece, making sure that they feel that there's real support behind it. Fourth, learning, show, don't tell. Similar idea, make sure that you show that you're serious, don't just tell them that you're serious. And then last point is be persistent. The great thing is that we all know where everything is heading. Everybody at the end of the day wants a safe, clean, healthy, affordable future to live in. School districts know that too. In fact, more than any other institution, they should know that because youth are their primary stakeholder. And so you're going to win this fight. The question is just, as you encounter barriers, making sure that you don't let them stop you, but rather persisting and moving forward. And as cliche advice as that is, that's absolutely the case here. Be persistent because you are going to win. Everybody here is going to win. So that's the very last thing, just the very last point is yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't take that.
This is one of the most important things that you can be doing on climate. And I really want to underscore this point is oftentimes there's sort of a fatalism about what can we do, and I've seen two responses to this, at least historically. The first response being, okay, let me just cling on to the very individual, what can I do, whether that's, not using plastic straws. And then you get into this sort of fatalism about, well, that's not going to save the world, okay? Or the other is this very, very kind of macroscopic, big picture thinking of let's end capitalism and get out in the streets and protest. And I think what's very special about this work is that it's in the sweet spot where all of you individually are proving it, are banding together, finding other partners and allies and sponsors and supporters, and not becoming an individual, but rather becoming a collective, which is something that Bill McKibben really emphasizes, and I would emphasize too. And you're figuring out how you guys can work together towards a common goal. And if this happened in every community in America, we would have fully electrified 100% renewable energy school districts. Think about the impact that has, and also think about the secondary ramifications of all the students in this country having that literacy and empowerment to move forward with this. So I'll stop there. I know I'm at time, and just wanted to say thanks and keep up all the great work.
All right, thanks very much, Charles. And we are right about at the top of the hour. I just dropped into the chat. I'd love everybody who isn't having a bad hair day to please turn on your cameras, and I'd love to get a screenshot of this motley crew against my better judgment. So let's see. I'm going to turn off my chat, turn on my screen capture, and Look at all those smiling faces. And okay, there's the first one. Pause for a minute while I get another one. Okay, and 1, 2, 3 for the next one. Here we go. All right. Now, Jim, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
You know what, for school districts, you know, so much of this comes down to saying, you know, where's the money for this? And I just wondered, how did things work out? Was it passing a mill and bond, or was it low interest loans, or was it money through the IRA? What allowed the district to say, gosh, maybe we can do this?
Yeah. So if you all who presented don't mind, I would like to answer this question because I had actually a sequence of slides targeted right at this. And before I dive into that answer, though, the clock just ticked 5. So if folks are turning into pumpkins and need to jump off, that's great. But I'm perfectly happy to stay on for a while with anybody who would like to keep asking questions. This has been such a great presentation. I'd like to essentially extend it to next week. We have weekly calls of this action team. And so I'm going to just decree that our weekly call next Monday at the same time will be further discussion and Q&A on this. Any of the youth who presented are welcome to come back, but of course not required. And but I loved the presentation, and I think there's plenty of Q&A. So I'll tee that up in what I post on our action team page as well. Let's see. Also, very briefly, a couple of other shout outs that I didn't get in. I know we have one city staffer here from Long Beach, a deputy mayor, Connor Locke. Connor, or did he already have to drop off? But if not, Connor, thank you very much for joining us. City staff and other school board officials around the country are critical in this. Also, Stephanie Mungia from CCL's Higher Education Action Team. Stephanie told me when I invited her that they are planning a college campus electrification campaign coming up soon. Stephanie, would you like to say anything about that?
I think all that I can share at this point is stay tuned. We're really excited to work on that as well, and grateful for the great advice we've already gotten from folks at Rewiring on how we can bring this same energy to college campuses, and look forward to sharing it with y'all when it's ready.
Fantastic. Okay. And then now, my last shout out and welcome is much delayed. I put it into chat, but Joel Rosenberg, who's been with Rewiring America for several years now, and Joel is one of the rewiring people who works a lot with CCL, with Tony Cerna, Dana Nuccitelli, and others. And now that leads into my answer to Jim Danforth's question about show me the money, right? And the very short story is that as I watched Ruthie and the students in the Green Schools campaign working through their process, trying to get the Long Beach School District to take action, you know, she described it. They were met kind of with dismissal. They had initially, it was interesting to see the difference in reception between what the students in Long Beach heard and what OHAS described in Tucson. You know, OHAS found the easy button, OJAS, I'm sorry. And so not everybody's going to be lucky enough for that. And so one of the things that I think helped break through in Long Beach was I described to the senior staff, who was both in charge of budget and facilities, one individual, I described the magic sauce of Rewiring America. I said, you don't have to replace all the machines at once, but you should convert all the machines in your enterprise from running on fossil to running on electric. And it's these 5 types of machines: your space heating, water heating, cooking and laundry, and transportation. And if you do that, and you do it as the machines are wearing out, in a couple of decades, you'll have been decarbonized. And it was almost as if the opposition melted, just converting the discussion from, they talked about infrastructure and made it sound scary and complicated and expensive. And when I explained, no, it's just same type basic machines you've been using, but just different power sources, and do it in accordance with your existing recapitalization cycle and that schedule and budget. And it was magic. They went from being very concerned to being very supportive. And, so I think we all owe Saul Griffith and Rewiring America huge kudos for painting that picture that makes it simple for people to understand. Joel, anything that you'd care to add on to that, or Charles?
The only thing I would add, one is that adults, if youth, the students, etc., or even if it's like a sustainability club at your high school, or a teacher, and you share this with them, the goal really is to just start, having more and more districts saying, yes, we need to make a plan, because we're not going to get to zero emissions until we stop burning fossil fuels in our schools and our buses. And secondarily, the hope is that when districts do take this on and say, you know what, we're going to stop burning fossil fuels in our schools, that it opens up an opportunity for the community to also say, hey, we should do this at home too, for the students to take it home, for the parents to take it on as well. And like Pete was saying, it's not, you don't have to go out and replace everything this year. The IRA has another 9 years to go. The important thing is to not get stuck with a fossil fuel replacement because you didn't have a plan when it dies in an emergency. And for districts, obviously, it's even more complex because, you got to raise money, etc. But just forcing them to make a plan has been shown to be effective in districts, multiple districts across the country. So you have power as adults to reach out to students. You could take it on yourself. It's just less resonant if you go to the school board and ask for something than it is for a student to show up and ask for it. And the other thing I'd say is that I didn't come up with this idea by others, by Sierra Club, which Charles, worked with, I guess, when he was in high school, by this group, Schools for Climate Action in Northern California. It's not hard per se, meaning it's not like you don't have to learn that much. You just have to be persistent and keep asking for the same thing over and over again. And, as Ruthie was saying earlier, eventually they crack. And so just persistence and perseverance is the way to go.
Wear them down. All right. So I've dropped a couple of links into the chat. I'll be posting on our Electrification Action Team homepage links to the slide decks, the recording. I've saved the chat, so the chat will be posted there. And anyway, just once again, big kudos to our presenters, and especially for being leaders this early in your lives. I'm blown away every time I work with my local Green Schools campaign. Ruthie is the bomb, and her predecessor, Diana, and all the other youth that helped make that happen. So great job. Other questions? Jeannie.
Maybe this is a question for Rewiring America, but do you recommend a phase out approach? Is that the strategy that you're advocating for, only when something, is you're gonna, how do you say, when you're phasing out a particular kind of energy and you need to replace it? Is that sometimes that doesn't seem like it would be fast enough, but is that what you're advocating for?
I guess I could take this one. We advocate, like, in an ideal world, we would have started this problem 30 years ago and we'd be almost done. But no, right now, most people don't have the cash, including districts, to just replace all of their stuff right now. And so, again, the most important thing that we advocate for students doing and for people at home doing is to make a plan for how you're going to replace all the stuff over the next 10 years when you're going to have to replace it anyway, right? Lots of schools are in disrepair. So yes, ideal world, if a district is rich, if they're building a new school, make sure it doesn't have fossil fuel. But other than that, if you already have fossil fuel infrastructure, figure out how much life it has left and make a plan to not get another one. Same for buses, same for water heating, same for your kitchen equipment. So yeah, in general, we advocate for replace it when it's dying. Hopefully not when it has already died and it's an emergency situation. And it's not ideal, but it's way better than what we're doing right now, which is basically just ignoring it.
Yeah, and I'll just tag on to that. Jeannie, the question you asked gets to the heart of one of the things why Rewiring's approach is so brilliant. The first time I heard Saul Griffith on a podcast before he founded Rewiring, I went back and listened to it 3 or 4 times, but it was literally that simple. None of us can afford to replace everything in our lives today, and there's not enough electric replacements out there being manufactured to do it, for all of us to do it all at the same time. We know it's going to be a couple of decades, and so guess what? If we do replace these machines in accordance with their life cycles, it will happen just through planned replacements. It's brilliant. And so that really melts a lot of the opposition. What else? Wow. Okay. Well, folks, thanks all for coming out. Give me a quick wave or a thumbs up on your icons if you think my idea of continuing this discussion next week has value. Okay. I see a handful. I'll expect all of you back and spread the word. And very good. All right. Thanks, everybody, so much. Take care. Have a great day and a great week.
Thanks so much, Pete. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Ruthie.
Great,
Thank you so much. It's great.
good job. Great presentations.
Yes. Steve, how are you? Oh, Steve dropped off too.